Good morning and welcome to the Markets Hub. We are starting out today in D.C. That's where we're going because negotiations are hot and heavy over, what else, of course, the fiscal cliff. And you can see there the podium down in D.C. We're awaiting comments from House Leader Nancy Pelosi, Democratic Leader Nancy Pelosi. We will later, a little bit later, around a little after 11, hear from House Speaker John Boehner. So we're going to hear both sides on what is the latest with the fiscal cliff negotiations. Everyone in D.C., they say they want a deal, but it's getting stickier and stickier the closer and closer they get to it. They only have about 18 days left until the cliff really hits on December 31st. But Americans have said one thing pretty clearly now, and they're saying compromise. Neil King is with us from D.C. to talk about this one. Neil, this was the latest journal poll that you guys took down there. It seems like a pretty clear-cut result.
Actually, it's a pretty dramatic shift in this desire for compromise, particularly among Republicans that we polled. You go back to April, and it was a minority, well under 40% of Republicans who would say that they want their Republican leaders in Congress to make some sort of compromise, hatch some sort of deal to deal with the federal deficit problem and budget negotiations. Now that's gone over 60%. That's a pretty dramatic shift. And overall, the message, it was three-quarters of everyone in this poll said that they would accept or they would find acceptable that there be tax increases on the rich in order to avoid going over the fiscal cliff. And of course, Republicans are still pretty firm in not wanting to see tax rates increased. And the interesting thing within that is 61% of Republicans polled said they would also find a tax rate increase on the rich to be acceptable to avoid going over the cliff.
Yeah, Neil, listen, we're up here in New York, and the people you polled, I assume, are all over the country. So we're only hearing kind of what we get at these press conferences. Is there a sense down there in D.C. that the sides are getting closer to a deal, or are they not getting close? I mean, what's the feeling down in D.C.?
One of profound frustration, and also this, it's hard to overstate how much this is being done in very close quarters, very close hold among a very small contingent of people, and it has not really been opened up yet to sort of the full caucuses on either side. I mean, they've done some exchanges of deals, but it's still pretty preliminary with some big gaps between the two sides, particularly on how much revenue any sort of deal would raise, with Obama and the Democrats wanting to raise a lot more revenue than the Republican side imagines.
Yeah, what I find interesting, too, is you talk about, okay, obviously they're discussing tax increases, spending cuts, those kind of things. It seems like the broad ballpark figure now is about $800 billion on the Republican side, $1.4 trillion on the Democratic side over 10 years, not 1 year, 10 years. But that seems broadly like what they were talking about a year ago when they couldn't come to a deal. My point is that nothing is new here. Nothing has changed. Why is it so hard for these two sides to reach a compromise?
I mean, that's what's really extraordinary is what we're looking at now in this whole, whole sense that we're going to tumble over this cliff is a whole bunch of deals, decisions that just haven't been made over the years. So, of course, one set of them is about the Bush tax cuts, which have been extended but never really resolved their status. Those will go away altogether if nothing's done about it. And then the other is a long ago, last year, deal that was done to raise the debt ceiling, and we face another one of those coming up next year, early in the year, whether to raise the debt ceiling. I mean, basically we have this incremental kind of non-government going on here where neither side can make any deal that lasts any length of time or foresees any particular future, and everything's just incremental and always on the brink of some kind of near disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, your colleague Damian Paletta wrote a post, I think it was last week now, where he talked about sort of actually the gradual deadlines for the cliff, that there's really not just December 31st. And you guys are aware of this, that Congress goes on vacation in a couple of days. Is there a sense that if nothing's done by, say, the 17th or 18th, that nothing's going to get done? Or is Congress are they going to give up their holidays?
Well, I mean, John Boehner had said, I think yesterday, that he was warning his caucus that they should expect to possibly work over Christmas if necessary. The thing is that at a certain point here, they're not going to be able to do anything. It's not as if these things can just be jammed together in a matter of a day or two. There are technicalities that have to be met, certain scoring that has to happen, at certain lengths of time that a bill has to be out there so that people can look it over. It can't all be done in a 24-hour period. And particularly if something's to be done before Christmas, we're not far off from when that's not going to be possible anymore. So there could be some Christmas vacations ruined at the least. And it would seem to me that in a day or two, the odds of something happening before the new year get pretty small.
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to fear too. Let's say that nothing happens before the new year. Let's say that nothing happens before the 18th. Let's say that the worst case scenario happens. Should we expect the end of the world? I mean, is this really a cliff? What will happen on January 1st?
Well, no, not really. I mean, of course, when it comes to the budget cuts, it will cause real problems in a bunch of agencies and contractors for the Pentagon. And there's a lot of movement already afoot to deal with that possibility. But it's not as if, on the first day of the year, all that's going to be cut all at once. Nor on the tax side. I mean, that's going to be a problem for a lot of accountants and various people. And, well, everyone's going to see their tax rate go up. But it's not as if that will make some...
Right. Neil, thank you very much.